with Dr. Linda. Get ready to be amazed. Get ready to know things that are usually unknowable. Get ready for an hour of insight and fascinating entertainment with Dr. Linda Salvin. For nearly 3 decades, Dr. Linda has been one of America's most celebrated psychic readers, metaphysical clinicians, and unmatched talk show hosts, bringing insights and solutions to thousands of people worldwide. Pull up a chair, turn it up, and get ready for a visit with the one and only Dr. Linda. And now, live from Los Angeles, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Linda Salvin.
Hi, everybody. I am Dr. Linda Salvin. Welcome to my new broadcast right here on Talk for TV, Talk for Radio, on the Women's Network, on lindasalvinradio.com, on YouTube, and probably 100 other platforms wherever you might be finding the show at some later date when you're downloading. Just to give you an introduction about what Dr. Linda's Starlight Cafe is. I started radio in 1994 on a very large rock and roll station here in Los Angeles, California called KBIG 104. And it was the beginning of the psychic shows because I was the first radio psychic, and the creative director, Fred Missman at the time, who's still the voice of my shows, he hired me to go on the air twice an hour with the talk show host at the time, Steve Woods, who's no longer with us, and created this format to compete with a station across town doing love letters. So I became the radio psychic. Every Tuesday and Thursday from, I think it was 6 p.m. to midnight or something, we would do the psychic shtick. And then I was tagged radio psychic. And then I was taught how to go do my own show and broker at an AM station. Then I got to cable. And the next thing I knew, I was 1 night a week, 2 hours a night, 5 nights a week, 10 hours a week. And I was in 400 markets. And I became really busy, really popular in the 90s and early 2000s with the radio psychic show that I did. And it's had different names, from the Starlight Cafe and Visions and Solutions and Dr. Linda, whatever. But I decided, since I have built my own radio station now and joined the digital movement, which I have been fighting for a long time, since terrestrial radio doesn't have talk like they used to when I was on KLSX 97.1 FM here in Los Angeles for about 5 or 6 years. It was hard. It was a transition back. It's about 14 years ago. And I've done a lot of TV and radio guest spots and podcasting and private sessions and everything all along the way. I've kept busy, but I decided it was time to come back out because it's the new generation. And there's so many psychics and healers and mediums, and everybody's talking about near-death experiences. Everybody's talking about the afterlife. Everybody's talking about channeling. Well, they think it's new, like they just discovered it. And I want you to know, I was doing it in 1994 on the radio, before anybody was doing it. There might have been 1 or 2 people on the East Coast that I happen to know, and we all kind of got on this bandwagon. So we are actually the pioneers in the radio psychic world, even though you on the internet think I may just be a speck of sand with all the thousands and thousands of podcasts out there. Like, why should you listen to me? Well, I'll tell you why. I'm a little different, and I'll tell you why. I survived a plane crash in 1981, probably a lot earlier than some of you were even born and alive, but I was on company business. I have a master's degree in public health epidemiology. I was on this plane that crash landed while I was on company business, and coming down the ramp, I had an out-of-body experience. Now, this is pre-internet, folks. I couldn't Google what had happened to me. There's no way anybody could help me. But as I slid down the ramp, this loud voice spoke to me and said, "Don't do this, do." And I was given a message. And when I hit the ground and started running, and before somebody got me to the paramedic station, I was 50 feet out of my body for 4 months. Okay, for 4 months, I was out of my body. I had an out-of-body experience. I was told I became a walk-in because I'd gone to a psychic about a month later when somebody said, "Go talk to this lady. She'll know what's wrong with you." Because I was lost, scared, out of my body, hearing things, seeing things I'd never experienced. I became psychic the day the plane crashed, February 17th, 1981. You can Google it. Air California at John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California. But it took 6 years to start recuperating. It was a horrible, horrible trauma. It's very PTSD. We all suffer from PSD of sorts, but of different elements, even from the pandemic or a loss of a pet or a loved one. We all go through things. But to go through a plane crash was a little bit more than a ride at Disneyland, okay? It took a lot out of me, and I became different, and I couldn't understand it. I lost a lot of friends who thought I was wacko because they were out becoming yuppies and making families. And I was out there looking for God, spirituality, and the meaning of life and trying to figure out why this happened. Well, I know now why, because I was being indoctrinated by the spiritual world to help people just like you. A year later, I was hit by a fire truck. I was taken to another level when I left my body as the truck rammed into my car. And the captain of the truck got out and came over. I was crying and laughing. I was driving a Camaro at the time. And he asked if I was okay. I said, oh, yeah, sure. Last year I'm in a plane crash and I'm getting hit by fire trucks. I mean, it's a bizarre story. I've survived it. If I hadn't lived it, I wouldn't believe it either. But it's true. And then 2 years later, I totaled a car on a rainy night. I was working for an entertainment industry company. And it was a rainy night, and I broadsided a car. I spun out, and I just said, oh, God, I want to go home. I was so tired. And as God is my witness, you might get chills hearing this, but a white light went from the ceiling of from the top of my head to the ceiling of the car, opened up in the heavens. This loud voice said, you can come with us now or stay and do. And I was given a message. And then the paramedics had to pry me out of my car, and I got on the pavement, and I said, they want me off the planet. They want me off the planet. And they took me to UCLA. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat today. They took me to UCLA Medical Center, where I stayed overnight until I could find somebody to come pick me up. And people said, another accident, Linda, another accident. People were getting tired of it. So was I. I didn't understand. But it's kind of like I was chosen, don't know why, to be a psychic and a healer. And all of what happened in the 80s, which was extremely confusing. And I ran for 12 years with this gift of psychic ability, didn't want it, denied it, did all these other jobs. And I finally said to the universe, said, okay, what do you want me to do? And when I surrendered, jobs opened. Psychic Friends Network open, radio open, TV open. My book's coming out this year. I just got offered another TV show, but now Hollywood's on strike. It'll happen. I built the station. I'm back on radio. On Tuesdays, you can see Sharon Winters with me, a very famous naturopath and author, and we're doing Transformational Tuesday, which is holistic health, wellness, and alternative medical ideas to help you stay healthy. And on Wednesday, I'm with Candy Finnegan right here on this station on Talk for TV. And I am with Candy Finnegan, who is a famous interventionist and recovery specialist working with families. So I have created programming. I've done the psychic stuff for 30 years on my own. I will invite you, as you get to know this show, that on Thursdays, if you come in to the chat room live, which would be 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, every other hour in between, I will take a question from you and respond, just like I used to do 50 calls a night on the radio. Now it's chat. So yes, I'm a true psychic from all these weird accidents. And the accidents was, okay, no, the Piperman is. I'm going to bring him on in just a moment. You'll see I've got competition here. The opportunities that opened to me going through it were painful, scary, not secure. I left corporate America. I left the academic world. I've worked in aerospace. I've worked in universities. I've worked for entertainment companies. I performed on stage. I did music. I did comedy. I've done a lot because I was looking for where I belonged. But I stuck with radio. I got the fulfillment of talking to people, educating, enlightening, having fun, and being serious and taking the punches as they come along. But FM's not the same as it was. So I decided I'm going to get involved with internet, which is where I'm here. And I started about 7 months ago with the YouTube channel, and now I'm growing again, thanks to the Piper Man. We're going to bring him on right now. His name is Dean Piper, who owns this fabulous network. Hey.
Hello there. How are you? And it's actually Pipe Man, even though
Pipe
my
Man.
last name's
Piper. Yeah.
But the Pipe Man is somebody else.
That's your persona. Thank you.
Yeah,
Rebels.
Pipe Man's not Dean.
No, that's your persona. That's your on air. It's like instead of me being Dr. Linda, I could be Bambi. Well, maybe not Bambi. Maybe Barbie.
Barbie, I was going to say. But so today you're going to get lucky because you'll probably get Dean and Pipe Man.
Okay, we can get that. I'll be all three of us are here, and whoever knows, or I even said Rebel, she can come in. Whoever's here, just to jumpstart my show because it's been fun. Hi, Mary. It's been fun just launching this network with this program with you because we've worked a few months and putting it all together, and my two show hosts, and everything's been flawless. And I want to thank you, Dean, because I met Dean here in Los Angeles 10, 12, 13, I don't know how many years ago.
Yeah.
Because FM had stopped, and I thought, all right, I'll go to internet, but I'm so used to immediate gratification, like with the phones and the calls. I wasn't used to the internet being a little slower to build, but once it takes off, it's there. So I left after like 2 or 3 shows. I drove him crazy. And then he kept marketing. I had come to the station. It's number one women's station, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay. So I talked to him. And after a few months of putting it all together and a lot of techie stuff I hate, we are here. And I want to thank you for your patience, but most of all, your guidance. And you've got an amazing network. How did you get involved with radio? You've been like living it all your life, right? I mean, you've just always.
And before we get to that, I want to show you something. Okay. So you see what's above me?
Yeah. Crystal ball and a wizard.
It's a soothsayer. My father painted that. And
oh my God.
He painted it for me when I was in the investment business. He said, put this in your office because it's the soothsayer so that I can make a lot of money.
Oh, can I get a copy? I need to get it morphed
I'll take a
here.
picture and send
That'd
it
be
over
cool.
to you.
Yeah, because I've got rainbows and waterfalls and awards and stuff, but that might be kind of cool to add. I would love it.
Nice.
I think I paid my dues. I could get a copy.
You definitely did pay your dues 100%. And going back to your question, I guess I might have paid my dues too.
Oh gosh, yes.
And I'm very different than the average radio person, which is why our network is so successful because, like I say, for people like me and people like you that come from, the 70s, I always say they have WKRP in Cincinnati syndrome.
Yeah, they do.
Like that radio doesn't exist anymore. And you and I have had that conversation,
many
just like
times.
you were just saying.
And I have fought you at that because even in February, March, I was being courted by Odyssey, which is former CBS. They wanted me back on the air and to pre-record and do morning shows and blah, 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 and go get your advertisers. And I was really at that crossroads, but Dean won. Dean made me understand I could still be successful over there. It's a different monkey, but there's more opportunity here worldwide. So are they, but it's a more comfortable situation, and the way of the world as we know is digital more than analog. Yeah. We know that
100%. And the way people communicate and the way people consume content. And I saw this vision from the very beginning. So like to go back to the backstory, I used to be very big in the investment business, and
this guy rattles off numbers. You say one thing, he's already got figured out in like 10 seconds. A whole package. It's like he's a computer. My dad's that way. You give him a number and there's the answer. Go on.
Well, it's funny you should say that because I had 15 licenses, 4 professional designations, including CFP, which CFP is considered the hardest exam you could ever have to take. I've sat with lawyers and accountants taking that exam, and they thought it was way harder than the bar or the CPA exam.
Well, you're just intelligent, smart, and a genius.
Well, it's also
it's
also too about having some common sense and logic when you do things. So, as you probably know, in that business, those tests are very hard. They're designed to fail, but it's actually you have to know how to take a test. And some people don't, and some people do. I happen to, and
obviously, because look what you've got achieved and done.
Exactly. So when I was in the investment business, what was the big thing during that time, the late 80s and the 90s, was you had a radio show to get your investment leads.
Oh my gosh, that's right. All FM, especially when I was on FM, every other commercial was either automotive, insurance, or investment, or real estate. Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember all those radio shows?
Especially on Saturdays.
Do you remember the radio shows that would talk about the seasonal tendencies of unleaded gas and heating oil? That was me. the gold, silver,
The gold and
platinum.
silver, right?
That was me. Okay.
Okay.
And so it was a different breed back then. And that's why I use that term WKRP in Cincinnati, because
It's a good
back
analogy.
then, for that type of business, it was basically an infomercial. But
Well,
nobody,
yeah, and that's what I do for direct market. It's direct marketing. You're hitting
Yeah.
the consumer. They like what you're offering. They'd come back. And it's the same thing with me. I don't know why this week on radio, my voice is locking up. Like
because you're on the radio.
Yeah, for the first time in a while. But it's the same thing. I made tons of money by booking or telling people, call me off the air for readings, healings, channeling sessions, when I used to talk to the dead, my candle magic line, which we'll do a commercial about in just a minute, Wicks of Wisdom since 1999.
I love that.
I want you here on with me and chit chat with me, because I don't want to do this alone. It's hard to do it alone.
I love your candle line.
I will get into Wicks of Wisdom.
Everybody's got to buy it, or else they can't watch my station.
I should send you a set so you can do a testimonial.
Oh, I am a publicity whore.
Oh, I know you are. I mean, all right, since we're opening up, okay, so you got
here,
into radio.
I'll pretend it's your candle. Here it is. Okay.
But you got out of investments and got into radio back in.
Well, I didn't even get into radio.
When I was at an NAB convention in 06, 08, I don't know, somewhere back in the mid 2000s in Vegas, which is the National Association of Broadcasting, which people don't know. And it was brand new about internet radio. You could get a program and create your own station. And I grabbed onto it, and I was at cable radio at the time. I said, what if we did this on the internet? And they thought, no, it's too much competition. And I started building my own, but I didn't know how to network. And I had built with Sam, and I hated that program because I couldn't understand the complexity. And then things went on. I tried by myself, and I kept working. But it's people like you where I know I could plug in and syndicate. You do the hard work. I do what I do best. But I understand the concept. A lot of people don't. They don't. They just turn it on. They think Spotify and TuneIn and iTunes just popped up. It's been all years of technology.
Well,
but
it's
how
like
did
all
you segue?
technology.
Of
it's
course.
like all technology.
Our parents didn't have TV.
Right. And I am somebody that took all those programming languages. So I know what makes all this stuff work. Most people don't. They think it just works, like you said. and so
how many arguments did we have with me saying, I hate this stuff?
I know, right? And so that's what really happened to me. So actually, to fill in a little bit of blank there, when I left the investment business, it was because personally, I was a motivational person all my life, but not as a career. And my dad had this line, if 50 people tell you you're drunk, lie down. And what that basically means is if a bunch of people tell you the same thing, maybe you ought to listen.
Yeah.
And so all my life, people told me I should be a motivational speaker. And so when I left the investment business, that's what I left to do, to be a motivational speaker.
To talk and speak. Yeah, you're a talker.
So what ended up happening is I had radio shows now for my motivational speaking. And then, as you're talking about, interestingly enough, and I'll give you, you might not even know the whole story, but I went through the worst part of my life where I went from making $150,000 a month to divorced, broke, homeless, with no vehicle.
I remember parts of that story, not all of the story. And you were young. How old were you in your 30s, early 40s when that happened?
When that happened, I was 39 and 40.
Just going into 40. And I was 27 when the plane crash hit, and I started radio at 40. Now I'm turning 70 in 5 months. It just
look at you. You don't look a day over 37.
Oh, how nice. Oh, I love men's compliments. Can we move into my show now? We're going to talk about you on your dime and your time. But it's you created this monster. You created this beautiful, beautiful, huge platform for so many different people, not just the women, not just psychic, whether it's automotive, whether it's motivational, whether it's about sexuality, if it's about healthcare and medical, if it's insurance. You've got a platform for everybody who wants to have a voice. Now, not everybody should have
trained
a voice, should have a voice. Yeah, I'm lucky. I got trained by people at ABC and CBS and the cumulus people. I mean, I was lucky. I got trained in broadcasting coming out of science. But the beauty is I took my scientific background, merged it with the spiritual woo-woo, got the PhD in metaphysics to integrate the epidemiology, and created this whole brand. I'll get back to you in a minute, because with the spiritual background that your father gave you, my dad's, one of his claims to fame is he started a company pre-computers, because Steve Jobs, when he was building Apple, when he was young 20s, was a customer of my father's company, which you would understand this on the printed circuit board. They had the printed circuit boards and little diodes for the engineers and draftsmen to create, what the connectors were going to be. My dad made the tapes and the stick-ons for the draftsmen for the Mylar. This is pre-computer, because people like Steve Jobs was creating the computer using my dad's products. So I have that kind of backstory, business, but that's not quite where I went.
How about this? How about this? I just found this out the other day. I was watching a documentary, because there's another show on our station that wanted to co-host. This is one of his favorite actresses of all time, and I saw it come up on Netflix. I'm like, I'm going to check it out. And so it turns out, what I found out, very, very interesting. Can you guess, by the way, this is somebody in his 70s, maybe almost 80s. Can you guess which actress it was first? Let's play that.
No, because there's millions of actresses. I don't know who he would be attracted to, and I haven't checked the log.
All right, let's see if Rebel knows, because Rebel has engineered their show. So she's got, I want to see, maybe she'll get a prize from me if she guesses right.
I'm sure you treat your employees well.
I don't like playing these games, Pipe Man.
Come on now, Rebel.
Come on, we don't want to waste time. I got to get to the candle commercial. Rebel's got the clock. So, all
right. Who's the actress? Who's known as the most beautiful actress ever in history? I'm not talking about Marilyn Monroe.
Raquel Welch.
She was from Germany. She was a Jew from Germany that denied her Judaism because she was hiding, because it was during the times of the Nazis.
Was that Meryl Streep?
No, she's not that old. This person's not alive. She's an actress from like the 40s.
I don't know. Marlene Dietrich, one of those.
And you know what's funny? Is right now I'm forgetting her name.
Good. Let's go to commercial. Rebel, go play those 3 little spots. I'll come back and explain what Wicks of Wisdom are. And then Dean's going to hear more, and we'll talk more about Dean. And maybe he'll even co-host this show every Thursday. I'll be right back. It's Dr. Linda Salvin with a frog in my throat. DNA Power. This set of candles helps bust through confusion in love, career, relationships, decision-making, and other situations.
Use this set of candles to assist in strengthening the immune system, heal from various ailments, enhance general health and well-being, and target and help heal specific health issues. They can expedite the healing process. They're great to use before and after surgeries, and it can encourage physical, emotional, and spiritual healing.
To what Wicks of Wisdom is. It's a candle magic line. As you saw, there were 3 candles, different colors. I have one here as a sample. There, you get 4 bottles of essential oil. No 2 are alike, no formula. Think of baking. You've got chocolate chip cookies, angel food, and apple pie. You got 3 different recipes that make 3 different foods of desserts. The same thing in candle magic. There are herbs and oils and powders and all sorts of ingredients that go into the candle. You'll learn from me. Then there's what's known as a petition. You use a pencil. There's words that go on here with certain names, and it gets burned in the flame. But I don't tell you what goes on the petition. That's part of the magic of Wicks of Wisdom. Wicks of Wisdom work like a prescription for your soul. I started the line in 1999. I was working at the radio station, and I was dating somebody, and I wanted him to open up. And one of my clients who sewed sage said, "Go to this guy." I had tried different candles, nothing worked. And I went to this guy, Michael, and I did his candles, and I called him and said, "Oh my God, it worked." He says, "Of course it works." So he said, "Come back, I'll teach you candle magic." And he's a Santerian priest, and I'm a Jewish girl from the Valley. I'm like, this is not going to work. It's scary. I don't want to like slaughter animals because you're not doing ritual. You're going to learn candle magic. I said, "Why are you going to teach me?" He said, "Because you'll help people on the radio and you'll buy from me." And I still buy from him 29 years later. But what this is, in Kabbalah, I have taken my own ideas metaphysically to take away the occult. And even though there are Santerian principles, there are Wicca, Pagan, everybody's got their own. But with Kabbalah, the candle in Kabbalah is called Chakma. And Chakma is the soul of man. So think of the candle as the soul, and the wick, when lit, is a flame, which is light, which is God. So what you're doing once you have your formula together, like you saw health and wellness and DNA power on there, you will do a certain petition and you feed the flame, which is to God, and things happen. Allegedly, things work. I cannot promise results, but I've been doing this since 1999. The testimonies are all over the internet and my website at lindasalvin.com. The health and wellness that you saw, the yellow candles. We had a girl who had needed a hysterectomy, was bleeding profusely. She did the candles, did not want surgery. She stopped bleeding. I had another woman in the state of Washington, had skin cancer on her face, went away. I burned candles when my dad had some surgery many years ago, and the doctor said he'd never seen anybody heal as quickly as somebody like my father did after having his bladder reconstructed. I have money and success power. You need money besides what you got with the poster. You can draw in more money, affluence. You want to buy a house, you want to sell, you want to get married. I got soulmate power. I've got people who always feel cursed, negativity. I've got good luck power to remove blocks, obstacles, negativity, curses, bad luck. I'm working with a guy in Canada right now that has a familial curse from about 8 generations back in, I think, Poland or Russia, from his old generation. So we're doing a ritual on his mother's side of the family, plus him, to free him. And he's already experiencing change in less than a week. The candles work like a prescription for your soul. You mentioned the show, you'll get 10% off. Just go to lindasalvin.com or call me at the number on the website. What do you want to say, Dean? I know candle magic's out there with a lot of people. And a lot of people put their oils into the candles. And I even asked Michael, I said, why don't we just do that? Make it simple. He said, no, you want to be the alchemist. You want people to participate. So I keep the old tradition versus everybody mass producing out there. And people come back after doing theirs and say, yours work. I said, I know. So nice. It's magic. But how?
You know what I love about it is that you were talking about the Kabbalah part, because
well, people don't get that, but thank you.
I love the Kabbalah, and what's interesting about the Kabbalah is that my great aunt was a renowned psychic throughout the world, so it runs in my family very strongly.
When do you get me?
It runs for me very strongly. Rebel will tell you I freak her out sometimes with stuff, but basically, it was in the time that it was taboo for a Jew to be psychic, and so she had a daughter who is also my cousin, who lived into her late 90s, who was supposed to die at under 5 years old. And,
oh, geez. She had an angel, huh?
And my great aunt Rose made a deal with God to no longer use her psychic abilities like throughout the world if
her daughter could live.
Yep.
And there's a trade-off. I'm not sure what I had to go through, because this came after all those accidents. It came to me to help people. But I don't really think I've sacrificed anything, but there are trade-offs. And sometimes I think when I became the walk-in, my trade-off was to give up my old lifestyle to help people. There is a sacrifice, the walk-in, and we can get into that. If you would co-host it, it would help me. Yeah,
it's the balance of the universe is what it is.
And that's what metaphysics is, because metaphysics is the combination of spirituality and psychology, like Dr. Carl Jung, which is when all this happened to me in my 20s and 30s. And as I evolved, I got my PhD at the age of 54. And you're only in your 50s now, but life goes on. I was 23 when I got my master's, and life took over with all these weird things. But somehow I was led to serve. Even my rabbi, who's now deceased, I had met a Hasidic rabbi that I was very close to for a while. Not that I joined the Leviticus, whatever, but I learned about a lot of what goes on there. And he said, Linda, you should have been a rabbi with your knowledge. I said, I don't want to be a rabbi, but I have the innate wisdom like you do. I don't know where, I didn't have it before the accidents. It came. You inherited. We all get it from somewhere.
And here's what's interesting too is, okay, so you're talking about the Kabbalah.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know about the Kabbalah when I knew the story about my Aunt Rose. And then I read the Kabbalah. I'm like, wait, why was it taboo back then? The Kabbalah is older than the Torah, and it talks about psychic energy in the Kabbalah.
And the core and the Kabbalah and in the Old Testament. And no, I'm not doing the work of Jesus or doing the work of the devil. I have been told, and I'm sure you've heard this, I would come home off the air. People, you're doing the work of the devil. You've got the blood of Jesus on your hand. I'm like, oh, please. It's like, if God didn't want me to have this gift, why did he give it to me? I didn't have it going to the University of Michigan studying epidemiology. I did not. This is not what I was planning to do. I thought maybe work at CDC or cure cancer, but that's another story. That's where I was then. This is how I've been for 30 years. I'm celebrating 30 years of airtime of radio next April. It's 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm a veteran. I'm going to take out an app.
You're a pro too, because like you're just absolutely amazing. That's why you're on the network here. And
thank you.
The help that you can do for people is astronomical, which is why it's so important that people follow you. Because
I have you to help me, because I'm going to talk after the show, because we are going to plan on the next step. I have to market again. I have to get back out there. I had a big name in the 90s and 2000s, and things change, and my name's there. You can Google me. I'm on pages and pages. But yes, as a new broadcaster or reinventing or re-entering the world on this platform, I want Dean's ego to hear this. Ego means edging God out, but for a moment you can have your ego. I searched different networks before I finally decided to commit to you. Not just because I'll make you a deal. He's such a salesman, people. He knows how to take a number, take off $500, and you think you got a deal. And I know I didn't get a great deal.
And listen.
It's your spiel, dude. I know.
But listen.
I listen.
I am a firm believer that is a big compliment you just paid me. Like some people would get offended or whatever. It's like, no, listen, I'm a professional. And so I have no problem with that. I'm a professional salesperson since I'm 11 years old. And
I sell Girl Scout cookies. I get it.
I might change my name to Monty Hall,
But I mean, I'm grateful. As I said, there's 3 shows here that I have created for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I was looking for an opportunity where I could have 3 different, varied type of shows with experts and knowledge and information, but it's all under my name, Dr. Linda Salvin, folks. So look for Candy Finnegan on Recovery Wednesdays for recovery, because we're all recovering from something, whether it's addiction to alcohol, drugs, food, sex, shopping, who knows? Being on Instagram's an addiction because of the dopamine fix. The Tuesday show, we're going to be talking about nutrition, DNA nutrition, how DNA health comes into play. That's the new topic. I have to send it to you. The other day, we talked about the fake food controversies because we're not really eating healthy items out there. You're going to learn a lot, not just on the psychic level. On the psychic level, I'll bring in near death, channeling the dead people, soulmates. Everybody wants to know if they're going to meet their true soulmate. What's a twin versus a soulmate?
I'd like to know that.
I can help you with that here. I have such a deal. I'll make you a deal, Dean.
I'll make you a deal you can't refuse.
Make such a deal, yeah.
And by the way, going back to that actress, okay?
Yeah.
The reason I brought her up is because
she's
the reason we're sitting here right now. It's Hedy Lamarr.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So she's the reason we're sitting here, because she actually invented Wi-Fi.
Yes, she did.
And the internet and all this stuff we're using. And she got screwed over because she was a woman back in that time. And she got screwed out of it. They waited till the patent,
passed on the timing, and they gave somebody else the. Yeah, she never got paid for it.
And then they did, and here we are. So we want to thank Hetty Lamar for having the Dr. Linda Salvin Starlight Cafe show.
On here.
We don't want to thank Hetty for the pipe man, because that probably wasn't a good. That was the negative of her invention.
No, that's not. That's not true. What was the name of the movie that came out about the 3 women with NASA, with Kevin Costner, and all 3 women that helped get the rocket to the moon, into space, the 3 black women, and they weren't even acknowledged. They didn't have a bathroom for the women. I have to look it up, but it's the same kind of thing. Women coming up in society have always been in the background. Luckily, I turned 18 in 1972 when we got the vote. When the 18-year-olds got the vote, it's also when Helen Reddy came out with "I Am Woman." So I came up right in that movement. I did not go into the women's lib and now and all that.
In 1972, I thought you had cooties.
Yeah, probably those old words. But yeah, I came up during those years, and watching technology, watching evolution. We have a woman in the White House now as vice president. We have women who are running major Fortune 500 companies. We do have a voice, and we're still put down, or we're still berated, or we're still insulted.
And that's just because the men are afraid that you guys are better than us.
We know that.
We don't want to let go of that.
Yeah, that's a power trip. But in the meantime, let's, yes, Hidden Figures. Thank you. Hidden Figures. You've got to see this movie, Dana, and it'll remind you of Hetty. You've got to watch this. I've watched it twice already, and it brings me to tears, and it moves me. There's a couple of scenes that you'll just play over and over in your head, but it's about the evolution of women, especially at NASA back in the 50s and 60s. Right. When you were supposed to be a typist or at home cooking, right?
My grandmother, by the way.
Mine were from Poland.
My grandparents were from, Europe. Name got changed. Like, my name's not our original name,
Not mine either. The Salvins were really Slutskis.
Oh, look at that.
Hey, slut.
You wouldn't want that name in high school.
We were sluts. Slutskis.
So my grandmother and my grandfather, they owned like one of the most famous kosher bakeries in the world. My grandfather was known around the world as one of the best cake designers there was. It was in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
My grandparents opened a bakery in Detroit, Michigan.
Nice. So my grandmother, she's the one that was in charge. And that's during a time where women weren't in charge. Women didn't work, all that stuff.
No, we were suppressed.
My grandmother was the original feminist without being the feminist of today. She was just a tough, strong, independent businesswoman. We weren't supposed to have brains and be able to think. It's like exactly.
I was just told I'm going to go to college. I didn't want to go to college, even though I have a PhD and a master's in public health. I wanted to just be a singer-songwriter. I started playing guitar at 9, stopped at 17, went back. I was offered 2 record deals, one at 28 and one at 40, and I took radio versus music. I don't know why. I still miss it. I still regret that it's there. It's still inside me. But this has had a passion to help people, kind of like you had a passion, a calling to get the network going, to help people. It's not just, of course, you make money, but you also found something to help others with their voice, with a passion you have. And that's the secret to life, is find your passion.
Oh, no doubt about it.
If you've got a passion, open up and let the universe guide you, right?
And going back to what you said earlier, that's what I was leading towards. I was at the worst point in my life, at the worst comedy in U.S. history, and I saw the vision of what we're doing now. I knew about podcasting before it was a word. I saw the vision of where media was going, and at that time, the WKRP in Cincinnati people were winning. It's like they were poo-pooing the whole internet radio.
Right, they did. Because I remember at the last R&R convention in 2009. It was 2 months before my mother died. I was at a convention, like the story, but it was R&R, the last of records and radio, for those that don't know. And everybody on the panels were saying, what's this internet? What are we going to do? And I'm thinking, that's the way of the future. That's the way of the future. But I could never figure out how to make it work.
I'll tell you what's interesting.
I stumbled a lot, but here I am.
I'll tell you what's interesting. You mentioned NAB.
Yeah.
You mentioned NAB, and I do radio coverage as press at NAB every year. Now that tells
Can
you
you
a
give me a
lot.
press pass? I'll meet you there in Vegas.
I can hook you up.
How nice.
And so here's the thing that tells you a lot. First of all, this is the biggest broadcasting conference in the world.
Yep, they come from all
it's
over.
so unbelievably huge. You can't even
It's
imagine.
not just radio, folks. There's TV, there's
it's
computers,
everybody.
it's every electronic thing that communicates. Yeah.
So number one, the fact that they have me, who does streaming radio, doing press coverage, like a real press person, tells you something about this industry and how we run our network. But more importantly, I can tell you I've seen the evolution through the years, because it used to be at NAB, they kind of poo-pooed the podcasting, poo-pooed the internet radio, because they were still holding on to that broadcast. Now you go to NAB, 90% of the sessions are not terrestrial radio. They are streaming radio and podcasting.
And everybody's got terrestrial with the streaming, just like at Odyssey. They wanted, I'd be everywhere, but I couldn't. It just didn't work. You found your niche. You saw the vision. You pulled yourself out of the trenches. I lost everything. I went with the candles. I was introduced to a producer in 2005 that was an infomercial producer. Speaking of infomercials, because back then it was late night infomercials from like midnight to 5 a.m. You buy something in the United States and Canada. I put Wicks of Wisdom on television, and I hired Kris Jenner before she had Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I paid her $25,000. Nobody knows the story because she's got a different story. She was paid $25,000 to host the show. It's on YouTube. You can see it. And I put Wicks of Wisdom out there. And it was long before anybody was really into this. I was ahead of my time. Now everybody's selling candles, but not everybody's got the real answers, the real results, and the real spirit behind it. They make jokes about it. They shun it. But I had a vision. Just like when 1999 I was introduced to it. Now it's 2023. I'm still doing it. And yes, I want to market more on the different networks. And yes, I'm going to be buying more ad space. I'm relaunching my brand that I've worked all these years to do. And somebody tried to steal it from me. They can't. And if they do, I'll sue them or whatever. I have worked hard, like Dean has worked hard. What happened after the infomercial? There were a lot of problems. I had to mortgage my house to save what was going on. I had no experience in direct marketing on television. Nothing. I learned. I had inventory. I had employees, but I had investors, and the whole thing exploded and went the wrong direction. And I had to sell my house after mortgaging it. Want to talk to a businessman like my father and then mortgage your house? No, that's not the way it works in our family. He would never trust me again. Well, I've rebuilt. I lost. And you either have a choice, people. Yes, I found God. Somebody just popped up and said she had an opportunity to go into Judaism if she wanted to convert, because she worked for a Jewish dentist.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I want Rebel to put Mary's comment back up there.
Yeah, I saw it.
Because I wanted to comment on it too. I wanted to thank Mary.
I think that too, because a lot of people are anti-Semitic, and
that's what I was exactly going to say.
It's worse than ever. It's worse than ever.
In a time where, that's exactly what I was going to say. In a time where anti-Semitism is worse than ever, to have somebody not Jewish supporting our community, I love you for that.
Yeah, and what gets me, and I may want you on my show every Thursday. I need the banter. Like online, if you're a Christian and, God this and God that, well, who's to say your God's any different than my God? God is God. There's one God, people, however you get there. No, you don't have to believe in Jesus to become a full Jew. Although after the plane crash, I did have a Christ awakening with a cross that hit me in the forehead. And then I saw Buddha when I was in Thailand. And it just goes on and on. There's one thing out there, however you find it. We as Jews are selected. We have our community. We have our upbringing. We have the war. Here in LA, we went to, they had an Auschwitz exhibit, and I spent 4 hours there, Dean. And my grandmother from Poland, they were in Rodham. And my grandfather, he and his family had already come to the United States, I think the late 20s, 29. They moved to Detroit. My great grandfather was a famous rabbi, and his name was David Zelinsky. Well, Leo, my grandfather, missed Bella, who was my grandmother. So he went back to Poland to get her to bring her here. They were first cousins. So I was my mother's cousin. So there's a lot of inbreeding bullshit and depression and crazy genetics, which we'll talk about on a different show. But it was shortly after my grandmother got out that 11 brothers and sisters, the parents, the cousins were all killed in the camps. So I would have had a huge family, but I have nobody. I didn't even talk to my sister. I mean, it's just our family's so dysfunctional. I find people to talk to that understand or hear me psychically or spiritually.
Find your tribe.
You gotta find your tribe, because psychic spiritual doesn't work in my little family. But there's a connection when it comes to religion, and religion and spirituality are not the same. And I have done shows on that where religion's man-made and spirituality just is. And I'm going to recite the poem. I know we're almost out of time, but for people who are going to start to come involved with what Starlight Cafe is, or my show, me, and hopefully, Dean, if you can make the time on Thursdays, I'd love it if you could.
When we have that phone call, we'll discuss that in the package.
Yeah, okay. I'll make it such a deal. But here's a poem I've read on the air for 30 years, people, and it's about God. And I have a 10-year-old client. Her mother's a pediatric dentist in Arkansas, and I'm treating the daughter. And she's got some fears going on. So I said, here's how you find God. And it says, God, are you real? The child whispered, God, speak to me. And a meadowlark sang, but the child did not hear. So the child said, God, speak to me. And a star shone brightly, but the child did not see. So the child said, God, speak to me. And the thunder rolled across the sky, but the child did not hear. So the child said, God, show me a miracle. And a child was born, but the child did not know. So the child said, touch me, God, show me you're real. Whereupon God reached down and touched the child, but the child brushed the butterfly away and walked away unknowingly. So I don't care about your religion. I know what I feel, but when I'm teaching metaphysics and spirituality, it's just everything. And that's what I want people to know.
It's universal.
It's all about the universe, divine intervention. Something got you out of the trenches. You had to go through that. It's like your past life near death to reinvent the Pipe Man and Dean and all these things that you've created. You had a choice to stay depressed, oh poor me, become a street person and a drug addict. People don't always have the faith or the courage to do it, though. And that's where I come in to offer help. I can offer the help where they're feeling lost or sad or hopeless. But that's what this show is. It's all spirit. If you want to talk to a dead person or a person that's passed over, I do that. I got that gift after having 100 tumors removed from my hips and thighs after channeling. I'm
kind of upset with my father, to be honest, because I get all this stuff in my head, and he's the one person that's never visited me in the times he's been gone.
My mom hardly visits me. It's 14 years. We'll talk about that as to why, but you've got everything around him that he's in you because you're so much like him. You're looking for him, but he's in you. You're just like, I didn't realize how much like I was my mom till I cleaned out her closet.
It's funny you should say that because
I'm psychic.
It's funny. Well, besides that, but sometimes I sit on my balcony and I go, oh my God, I became my dad.
My father. Or they say you marry your, for women, I married my father till I realized I married my mother. And to the boys, they say you married your father till you realized you married your mother.
I married my mother. That's why I'm divorced.
At the end of the show, I want to thank you, Dean, for taking time to help me launch today's broadcast. Because every Thursday, folks, I'm going to do this live with the Starlight Cafe. And I invite you to go to lindasalvin.com, where you can see my whole website with all the testimonies, my readings, healings, channelings. Dr. Linda Radio is there. All the Wicks of Wisdom. And again, Wicks of Wisdom are on sale at 10% off. And they do work like a prescription for your soul. And each week I'll find another topic. I go on to different topics. I don't stay focused, obviously. I'm too ADD. And I've got too much going on in my brain. But I love having you here because you've got the same kind of, there's a frequency that I know that you understand because I hear you and I know you hear me. And a lot of people are on different levels and you can't always match the same intellect or quickness or whatever. But I guess.
And I want to thank you, though, because of all the good that you do for the world with your message.
Thank you, Dan.
It's so important.
Thank you. And more the message will come out on the Tuesday show with Transformational Tuesday with Sharon Winters and me, and then Candy Finnegan on Recovery Wednesdays. It's all spirit. It's all about taking care of yourself. It's all about striving, and a lot of negativity out there that we know. We've come through a lot, even the trauma of the pandemic, but we still keep going, folks. I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to see Dean after the show. You guys have a great week or day or evening, whatever time it is you're downloading this show, and keep in touch, and I'll see you soon on the radio. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed today's program with Dr. Linda. Need a breakthrough of your own? Ready for answers or insights nobody else has? Reserve your own one-on-one in-person chat. Dr. Linda isn't just for other people. Dr. Linda gets results for you. And it's easy. Contact details are on screen now. Just click on lindasalvin.com or call toll-free 888-509-1077. That's lindasalvin.com or toll-free at 888-509-1077.